Bruchim habaim, baruch hanimtzeim. Welcome, friends, to our afternoon service for Yom Kippur, which segues into our Yizkor memorial service and concludes with our Ne'ilah service. It's a pleasure to welcome those of you who are here with me in this beautiful meeting house. It's a pleasure to welcome those of you who are joining us on computer, on cable television. We welcome you as part of our extended congregation. Perhaps more than any other part of the Yom Kippur liturgical experience, the afternoon service affords us rich opportunities for reflection and inspiration. I like to think of it as an opportunity to use the messages inherent in Yom Kippur to our best advantage in this new year. As we move through the afternoon toward the closing of the gates of Ne'ilah, we will engage with questions, stories, and inspiring passages. They are all intended to help us in our desire to experience the sacred and to come away from our encounter inspired to get up tomorrow morning to re-engage with the work of repairing the world to which Judaism calls us. It is no coincidence that the heart of our liturgical journey this afternoon, we will encounter Yizkor, memorial prayers. The legacies left us by those we loved and lost are often powerful sources of inspiration to do the work we are called upon to do. We continue in our Machzor on page 377. Rava taught, when we are led in for judgment in the next world, we will be asked these questions. Did you conduct your business honestly? Did you set a time for study? Did you leave a legacy for future generations? Did you have hope in your heart? Did you get your priorities straight? Did you enjoy this world? Were you the best you could be? Those questions are probably a millennia and a half old, but powerful and timely as ever. We continue at the bottom of page 385. A passage about forgiving oneself. Feel bad. It won't kill you. Use these feelings as a catalyst to make amends, so long as doing so doesn't inflict more pain. Do something positive that will help offset the damage you have caused. After you've done all you can by way of making amends and have learned all you can from what you did, make a solemn vow not to repeat the act. Assuming you've done all of this, let it go. How? The next time the memory arises, don't give yourself over to the drama. Yes, I did that. I won't do that again. There's no point in dwelling on it, and doing so simply feeds my narcissism. Better to do something constructive with my time and energy. Page 397. A passage from Martin Buber, The Urge to Give Thanks. The older we get, the greater becomes our inclination to give thanks, especially heavenward. We feel more strongly than we could have ever felt before that life is a free gift, our hands reaching out gratefully to receive the unexpected gift of each good hour. But we also feel, again and again, an urge to thank a friend, even if he or she has not done anything special for us. For what then? For really meeting me when we meet, for opening her eyes and not mistaking me for someone else, for opening her ears and listening carefully to what I had to say. Indeed, for opening up to me what I really wanted to address, her securely locked heart. For reflection. What has happened in my life since last Yom Kippur that makes me thankful? Have I grown during the past year in my ability to experience and express gratitude? Am I consistent in expressing gratitude to loved ones and friends? Do I look for things to feel grateful for or things to complain about? Do I feel appreciated by others? What have I done during the past year that has earned someone else's gratitude? What blessings have nourished me in recent years? What are some miracles that greet me every day? Page 404. Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu, barchenu babracha hamshuleshet, haktuva b'Torah, ha'amura mifi kohanim, am kedoshecha ka'amor. Our God, divine presence, whose path our ancestors walked, bless us now with words first bestowed on Israel in the time of Moses and Aaron, the threefold blessing given us through Torah that joins our hopes with theirs.
Yivarechecha Adonai ve'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and protect you. May it be so.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May you receive the light of God's kindness and grace. May it be so.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom, shalom.
May God bestow favor upon you and give you peace. May it be so.
Amen.
Page 406.
Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uveracha, chen vechesed berachamim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael amecha. Sim shalom, sim shalom, sim shalom, tova uveracha. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. You are the Blessed One, eternal source of shalom.
We take some time for silent reflection, out of which we will emerge together on page 410.
יהיו לרצון, יהיו לרצון אמרתי, והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי, וגואלי. אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
We continue on page 423, in the middle of that page. Who among us is blameless? Who shall say, I have not erred, I have not wronged or sinned? Let's read this together. We abuse, we brutalize, we covet, we deceive, we enslave, we feud, we gossip, we humiliate, we injure, we judge unfairly, we kill, we lie, we manipulate, we neglect, we ostracize, we plagiarize, we quarrel, we rage, we shame, we turn away, we undermine, we vilify, we waste, we exploit the earth, we yearn too much for yesterday and too easily forget Zion. Our sins are an alphabet of woe. Help us, Holy One, to follow your ways of integrity, justice, and love. Teach us to seek forgiveness with humility and an open heart. It was impossible to miss the fact that that was an acrostic taking us through the alphabet of sins, all the ways that we can potentially screw up. Someone once quipped that there are endless ways in which we can fail, but thankfully there is an end to the alphabet. We continue on page 425. Hakarat hatov, recognizing the good. What gives us strength to pursue goodness? Awareness of the good that is around us. Decent, generous acts that remind us of what is possible, here and now, in this world of moral ambiguity. So our sages taught, one mitzvah inspires another. Thus we acknowledge and celebrate those who do their best on the job, whatever their level of pay, and those who run an honest business, who don't cut corners, falsify, or lie. Those who labor in obscurity to help others or advance the frontiers of truth. Those who add beauty to the world through the arts or through unselfish deeds. Patient teachers who see the potential in shy or difficult students. Students who focus on learning, not just good marks, and earn their grades fairly without cheating. Athletes who exemplify good sportsmanship and self-discipline. All those who use their wealth to benefit society and the greater good. Those in high places who resist the corruption of power. Whistleblowers alert to malfeasance who bravely sound the alarm. Public servants who do the people's business with integrity. Politicians who place conscience above popularity. those who travel far from home to defend our country from foes, those who keep our communities safe, who run into fires to save lives, parents who care selflessly for ill or troubled children, children who give time and love to frail and aging parents, loving spouses who remain faithful, loyal friends who stand fast in times of trouble. May their mitzvot inspire our own. May we find the strength to emulate their honor. Let us take joy in remembering that goodness still abides. We turn to page 427. We invite forward to open our ark Leslie Chiswick and Laurie Labreck. Page 427, we rise together. Avinu Malkeinu, we join generations of Jews who have sought your compassion. Shekhinah Imenu, nurturing presence. Mikor Binatenu, source of insight and understanding. Tzor Chayenu, unweathered stone, steadying strength beneath us. Yedid Nafshotenu, intimate soul companion. Chonenu Va'anenu, we open to you in self-examination. Grace us and answer us. Be present with us and inspire us. Accompany us. Assure us we are not alone. Ki ein banu ma'asim. We approach you empty-handed. Our accomplishments set aside. Rather than defend ourselves, we confess we are broken-hearted at our failures, and our world remains unrepaired. Aseh imanu tzedakah v'chesed. Embrace us generously as we expose our errors. Be our example. Hold us with abundant love. Turn us to face the world with justice and compassion. V'hoshienu, save us. We join our strength to yours as we offer ourselves fully to life ahead. Page 429.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki ein banu ma'asim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki ein banu ma'asim.
Please be seated, friends. Page 430. Ours is the duty, aleinu. Ours the duty to listen, and ours the duty to praise. Ours is the duty to respond to what we hear, to raise questions and build houses of study in which to ask them, to praise the Creator for creating, to praise the Creator for rest, to praise the God of Torah for the challenge of Torah, to praise the God of eternity for every hour, every day, to plant and build, to seek peace and pursue it. Ours is the duty to do justice, ours the duty to be Israel, to fix the broken, to open doors of hope, to bow before a commanding power that speaks to us from Sinai, from history, from deep within the heart. Hear, O Israel, it is not your duty to complete the work, but you may not turn away. Page 436. It is written, know before whom you stand, but in truth we do not know. Perhaps we stand before our history, a chronicle of stubbornness, quiet heroism, and the will to live. Perhaps it is the memory of those who struggled to be human in a world that was dark and cold. Perhaps it is Torah that summons us to rise, the golden chain of tradition, a reverence for learning, permission to question and doubt. Perhaps we stand before ideals that call us to do justice, to love kindness, to walk humbly on this earth. Perhaps it is awe at the kinship of all that live, or the unknowable, unnameable mystery that brought us here. We stand together, seekers, doubters, and those who are firm in their faith. And this we know. The day is short, the work immense. The laborers are reluctant. The reward is great, and the need is urgent. In the middle of page 437, this teaching attributed to Rabbi Judah. Amar Rabbi Yehuda al tistakel b'kankan ele b'ma sheyesh bo. Rabbi Yehuda said, look at the vessel, not at what it contains.
Have no regard for the jar, rather for what is inside. Have no regard for the jar, rather for what is inside. Amar, 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 Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Amar, 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 Amar Rabbi Yehuda.
We continue on page 447. We invite forward to open our ark Linda Kohler, Merrill Blum. Page 447, if you can comfortably stand, we rise together. the sacred journey of life. Let us rise to this call. Kadosh shall you be. Dulled by routine, awash in trivia, assaulted by noise, can we still hear the ancient voice? Kadosh shall you be, for Kadosh am I, the eternal. Within us, beyond us, the still small voice, urgent, insistent, summons the soul. Kadoshim to you, for Kadosh am I, the eternal. Lift up your deeds, awaken to all, strive for the good, hold fast to the truth. Listen well, family of Israel. The voice still speaks. Become a holy people, Am Kadosh. Bring holiness to earth and live. Here and now, bind yourselves to this journey. Make your life a pilgrimage of service, a sacred ascent. Eternity dwells within you. Join yourselves to the eternal. Please be seated, please. We continue on page 476. These cry out to us. Let now a generous presence teach us gentleness that melts our hardness of heart. Then shall we be more sensitive to the needs of others and responsive to their pleas. All who struggle to be heard, and those who live behind walls of illness, poverty, and injustice. All whose faces are forgotten from one encounter to the next, and those who never find a place of shelter and safety. All whose skills and talents go unnoticed, and those whose bright promise has dimmed for want of attention. All whose bodies are burdened with pain, and those whose minds are clouded by confusion. All whose voices tremble with the cry of absence, and those whose only season is the winter of the heart. All who die alone in spiritual darkness, and those whose isolation is a living death. All who are abandoned, neglected, or abused, and those who have been driven from their homes by violence and war. All who wait for love that never comes, and those who long for a word, a touch, a friend. To all these let us respond with open hearts. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al mitzvat karbanot. Blessed are you, eternal presence, by whose power we sanctify life through acts of generosity and self-sacrifice. Page 482. Deep are the waters of time. To search their darkness for glimmers of the ancient radiance, sparks of inspiration and guidance, this is our avodah, the sacred service of this holy day. Deep are the waters of our people's past. To plumb their depth, to see our reflections in the living stream of history, this is our avodah, the sacred service of this holy day. Deep are the waters of memory. To drink from this well, to remember our past and make it come alive, this is our avodah, the sacred service of this holy day. Deep are these waters. Are they not the source of our salvation? We turn to page 503. One of my favorite passages found at the top of this page. Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch surprised his followers one day by announcing his intention to travel to Switzerland. When I stand shortly before the Almighty, he explained, I will be held accountable to many questions. But what will I say when I'm sure to be asked, Shimshon, did you see my Alps? We fulfill the mitzvah of joy in both material and spiritual ways. When we buy something we enjoy, the purchase of food or clothing, for example, or when we bring happiness to other people on holy days, especially those in need. But if one enjoys oneself in excess while ignoring the poor, it is considered simchat hakares, happiness of the stomach, pure physical gratification. The mitzvah of joy is an expression of holiness, for it brings the realization that we are in God's presence. The Talmud uses the same language to describe the state of mind of the prophets. The divine presence is not found where there is a state of sorrow, but rather through simcha shel mitzvah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al hasimcha. Blessed are you, eternal presence, by whose power we experience holiness through joy. Page 506, the middle of that page. Please join me in reading this passage. When evil darkens our world, let us be bearers of light. When fists are clenched in self-righteous rage, let our hands be open for the sake of peace. When injustice slams doors on the ill, the poor, the old, and the stranger, let us pry the doors open. Where shelter is lacking, let us be builders. Where food and clothing are needed, let us be providers. Where knowledge is denied, let us be champions of learning. When dissent is, let our voices speak truth to power. When the earth and its creatures are threatened, let us be their guardians. When bias, greed, and bigotry erode our country's values, let us proclaim liberty throughout the land. In the places where no one acts like a human being, let us bring courage, let us bring compassion, let us bring humanity. We continue on page 516. Eile ezkara, these I remember, stories of repairing the world. In the prayer book of the High Holy Days, which evolved during the Middle Ages, Eile ezkara is a moment of poignant identification with Jews of the past. Through the poetry of lament, for those I weep, it recalls the martyrdom of 10 rabbis executed by Rome in the 1st and 2nd centuries of the Common Era, and it venerates those who were martyred. The legend of the 10 rabbis entered the Yom Kippur Machzor of Western European Jews during the Crusades, when waves of crusaders cut a path of destruction across Europe en route to the Holy Land. The Jews who survived found spiritual meaning in the stories of ancestors who had perished under Rome 1,000 years earlier in the land of Israel. Our ancestors believed that death atones for sin. Thus, they saw a connection between martyrdom and the Day of Atonement. But the traditional Eile ezkara of the Middle Ages might also be read as a crisis of faith, presented annually as a challenge to God. Why do we, the innocent, suffer? What has become of the covenant? Where are you? Every generation tells the story in its own way. The Eile ezkara in this Machzor frames the themes of life, death, and remembrance differently from that of our forebears. From the account of Rabbi Akiva's spiritual resistance against the evil of Rome, we turn to human beings who lived in the more familiar but no less treacherous terrain of modernity and responded to extraordinary events in ways worthy of sacred remembrance. In Eile ezkara, we recall men and women who responded, Hineni, here I am. They gave their lives while struggling to right wrongs, make peace, and save others from humiliation, harm, or death. We remember them today not as martyrs and not as saints, but as human beings defined by their moral choices, their sacrifices, their sense of responsibility. Theirs are stories of repairing the world, tikkun olam. The first that we encounter is found on page 522. Shmuel Ziegelboim, a leader of the General Jewish Workers' Union known as the Polish Bund. Upon entering Warsaw in 1939, the Germans demanded from the city government 12 hostages. Ziegelboim, who had taken part in the defense of the city, offered himself as one of the 12 in place of another hostage. In 1940, he escaped to Belgium and then America, settling in London in 1942. When he received information about Nazi Germany's final solution, he campaigned passionately for international aid to rescue European Jewry. Depressed by the lack of response to his pleas and by German ruthlessness during the Warsaw Ghetto Revolt, Ziegelboim took his own life on May 12, 1943, at the age of 48, to protest the world's indifference to the impending destruction of his people. Ziegelboim's suicide note took the form of a letter to the president and premier of the Polish government in exile. These are his words. I cannot be silent and I cannot live while the remnants of the Jewish people of Poland, of whom I am representative, are perishing. By my death, I wish to express my strongest protest against the inactivity with which the world is looking on and permitting the extermination of the Jewish people. I know how little human life is worth, especially today. But as I was unable to do anything during my life, perhaps by my death I shall contribute to destroying the indifference. My life belongs to the Jewish people in Poland, and therefore I give it to them. Rabbi Hillel teaches, Uvimkom she'ein anashim hishtadel lihiot ish. In a place where there are no human beings, strive to be human. Page 525, we meet Eddie Hillison, who bravely served the Jews of Holland during the Shoah. Hillison was a volunteer social worker at Westerbork, a German transit camp for Jews and other foreigners who were sent to Auschwitz in freight cars that left the camp every Tuesday beginning in 1942. After traveling for a year between Amsterdam and Westerbork, advocating for her people and offering them comfort and material support, she herself was imprisoned in Westerbork in 1943. The diaries and letters Hillison wrote during her last 2 years of life document her courage, empathy, and spiritual depth. Dutch farmers found a postcard she threw from the train as it left Westerbork. It read, "We left the camp singing." She died in Auschwitz in November of 1943 at the age of 29. She wrote, "It is sometimes hard to take in and comprehend, O God, what those created in your likeness do to each other in these disjointed days. But I no longer shut myself away in my room, God. I try to look things straight in the face, even the worst crimes. I try to face up to your world. God, not to escape from reality into beautiful dreams, though I believe that beautiful dreams can exist beside the most horrible reality. And I continue to praise your creation, God, despite everything. Uvchartem b'chayim lama'an techiyeh ata v'zarcha. Choose life so that you and your children may live. Page 527. Chana Senesh, a native of Budapest, Hungary, who made Aliyah to British Mandatory Palestine in 1939. 5 years later, having trained as a paratrooper, Senesh was one of 37 Jews who parachuted behind German lines in an attempt to rescue Hungarian Jews destined for Auschwitz. During her 3 months in Europe with partisan resistance fighters, she wrote the prayerful poem, "Blessed is the Match," Ashrei Hagafror. It was her last. Captured and tortured, and having refused a blindfold, Chana Senesh was executed by Nazi firing squad in 1944 at the age of 23. She is buried in a special section of the military cemetery on Mount Herzl in Jerusalem, where the gravestones are arranged in the shape of a parachute. Ashrei
הגפרור, שנשרף להסית להבות. אשרי הלהבה שבערה בסתרי לבבות. אשרי הלבבות שידעו לחדול בכבוד. אשרי הגפרור שנשרף והסית לבבות.
Blessed is the match, consumed in a kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that softly burns in a heart's secret place. Blessed the hearts that, like flickering lights, knew to flutter and die without shame. Blessed is the match, consumed in a kindling flame. Yai-dai-da-dai, yai-dai-da-dai, yai-da-da-dai-dai-dai, yai-dai-da-dai, yai-dai-da-dai, yai-da-da-dai-dai-dai. Uvimkom she'ein anashim hishtadel lihiot ish. In a place where there are no human beings, strive to be human. Page 528, we remember Daniel Pearl, who put himself in harm's way to inform the world of turbulent events. Pearl was an American journalist who covered ethnic strife and war in the Balkans, in Sudan, and in Iran. He was also a citizen of Israel. By 2002, Pearl was the Wall Street Journal's bureau chief in South Asia. While investigating Islamic terrorism in Karachi, Pakistan, he was abducted and executed by al-Qaeda terrorists. A videotape of his murder at the age of 38 preserves his last words. My father is Jewish. My mother is Jewish. I am Jewish. Back in the town of Bnei Brak, there is a street named after my great-grandfather, Chaim Pearl, who was one of the founders of the town. South African writer and political activist Nadine Gordimer later reflected, I am a Jew. To be a Jew, to be black, it is simply something you are. There's no pride in belonging to one particular race, color, or designation, and no denigration whatever in your identity. I was asked in a questionnaire what wish I would want to leave behind me in the world. My answer is recognize yourself in others. That would be the end of racism, which we know in all its pain and despicable horror. I believe that Daniel Pearl's last words, "I am a Jew," were an assertion of his inalienable right to recognition of the human oneness in his specific identity. His was the ultimate judgment on the senseless brutality that took his young life. Tzedek, tzedek tirdof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. Page 532. A form of Kaddish created by the American poet Charles Reznikoff. It's based on the Kaddish de Rabbanan, the rabbi's Kaddish, with which rabbis would send off their students after a session of study. Upon Israel and upon the rabbis and upon the disciples and upon all the disciples of their disciples and upon all who study the Torah in this place and in every place, to them and to you, peace. Upon Israel and upon all who meet with unfriendly glances, sticks and stones and names on posters, in newspapers or in books to last, chalked on asphalt or in acid on glass, shouted from 1,000 windows by radio, who are pushed out of classrooms and rushing trains, whom the 100 hands of a mob strike, and whom jailers strike with bunches of keys, with revolver butts, to them and to you in this place and every place, safety. Upon Israel and upon all who live as the sparrow of the streets, under the cornices of the houses of others, and as rabbits in the fields of strangers, on the grace of the seasons, and what the gleaners leave in the corners. You children of the wind, birds that feed on the tree of knowledge, in this place and in every place, to them and to you, a living. Upon Israel and upon their children, and upon all the children of their children, in this place and in every place, to them and to you, life. We turn to page 538, where we find our Yizkor memorial service. The wisdom of our tradition. Our tradition shows great wisdom in teaching us to gather for services of remembrance on Yom Kippur and on the 3 pilgrimage festivals, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. These moments that mark the seasons of the year and the seasons of our lives awaken strong memories of relationships that shaped us, sustained us, and sometimes challenged us, and of holy days we shared with loved ones and cherished friends. When they are gone, we can still affirm the beautiful and lasting values we learned from them and remember them in all their humanness. One of the ways we can do that is by coming together as a community of comfort and care. From its inception 1,000 years ago, when it was prayed by Ashkenazic Jews on the morning of Yom Kippur, Yizkor has had 2 profound themes: God's embrace of the loved ones who are beyond our reach, and our commitment to do the good deeds that are within our reach by giving tzedakah in their memory. When we say Yizkor, which means may God remember, we proclaim our faith that those who have died have significance now and forever. I want to share with you a lovely poem by Marge Piercy, a longtime Cape resident, renowned poet, novelist, and one of the founders of the Chavurah on the Outer Cape called Am Hayam. This is from a collection of her poems called Made in Detroit. She's a native of that city. It's titled, Late That Afternoon They Came. At Yizkor, my dead swim around me, schools of them flashing, then slowly, as one by one I honor them. Mother, brother, bubbe, aunts, uncles, cousins, I am here to say one by one, silently, their names. Friends of all the times of my life, those who left young, those whom death took after illness ravaged them, those whose names shine for all, those who lived hidden by poverty, those whom you might call ordinary, but not to those who love them. My cats come too, even if you believe they lack souls. All those I've loved and cherished circle in the fading light of Yizkor, and I pray, blessed be their memories. As long as I live, let me pause to remember. Let me pay them a prayer placed like a stone on their graves. On page 540, in the middle of that page, we find another well-known poem by Chana Senesh, of whom we read, Eli, Eli. I learned something about this poem that I had not known. I learned it last year, and I put a note in my machzor to share it again this year. In Hebrew, this poem is called Halicha di Caesarea, a walk to Caesarea, also known by its opening words, Eli, Eli, my God, my God. It was set to music in 1945. Senesh wrote the poem when she was living in kibbutz Sdot Yam, located a short distance from the Mediterranean coast and the ancient port town of Caesarea. Give me just a moment to make sure this is in tune. It deserves to be in tune. Page 546. The traditional Yizkor prayer asks God to remember the souls of our loved ones and to shelter them for eternity. But the Yizkor service on Yom Kippur has significance beyond the prayer itself. This is a moment set apart for solitary reflection, an opportunity to fulfill a sacred obligation, and it is a time to feel the physical and emotional closeness of community, the presence of other people who know what we have been through because they have been through it too. At Yizkor, we see the sorrow in one another's eyes. As the number 7 is a Jewish symbol of wholeness and holiness, our Yizkor service offers 7 ways to reflect on loss and memory and healing. We choose alone and together from among these diverse lights.
Enosh kechatzi amar, ketzitz hasareh ken yatzitz, ki ruach avra bovenu, velo yakirenu od mekomo. V'chesed Adonai me'olam v'ad olam al yireav b'tzidkato lifnei vanim l'shomrei verito.
Our days, like the grass of the field, like flowers in the meadow, vanish in a momentary gust of wind, gone, never to be seen again. But God's love is infinite and with us forever. God's goodness reaches far into the future. This is the gift of the covenant. Page 549, the middle of that page. The death of a loved one is the most profound of all sorrows. The grief that comes with such a loss is intense and multifaceted, affecting our emotions, our bodies, and our lives. Grief is preoccupying and depleting. Emotionally, grief is a mixture of raw feelings such as sorrow, anguish, anger, regret, longing, fear, and deprivation. Grief may be experienced physically as exhaustion, emptiness, tension, sleeplessness, or loss of appetite. Grief invades our daily lives in many sudden gaps and changes, like that empty place at the dinner table, or the sudden loss of affection and companionship, as well as in many new apprehensions, adjustments, and uncertainties. The loss of a loved one throws every aspect of our lives out of balance. The closer we were to the person who died, the more havoc the loss creates. Love does not die quickly. Hence, to grieve is also to celebrate the depth of the union. Tears are then the jewels of remembrance, sad but glistening with the beauty of the past. So grief in its bitterness marks the end, but it also is praise to the one who is gone. We continue on page 556 with words from Psalm 121.
Sa'enai el Harim Me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim Ba'aretz Sa'enai el Harim Me'ayin yavo Ezri me'im Adonai Ose shamayim Ba'aretz Sa'enai el Harim
my eyes to the mountain peaks. Where will my help come from?
My help will come from God, maker of heaven, maker of earth. Esaenai El Hehari.
We turn to page 560. Words of healing. I sat down in the middle of the garden and leaned my back against a warm yellow pumpkin. The earth was warm under me and warm as I crumbled it through my fingers. I kept as still as I could. Nothing happened. I did not expect anything to happen. I was something that lay under the sun and felt it like the pumpkins, and I did not want to be anything more. I was entirely happy. Perhaps we feel like that when we die and become a part of something entire, whether it is sun and air or goodness and knowledge. At any rate, that is happiness, to be dissolved into something complete and great. When it comes to one, it comes as naturally as sleep. That's a passage from Willa Cather's novel, My Antonia. A boy is in his grandmother's garden surrounded by tall prairie grass, and he lies down and thinks those thoughts. Baruch atah Adonai mekor hachayim, blessed are you, Holy One, who gives and renews life. Page 563, the middle of that page. A passage by Stuart Kestenbaum in the footnote tells us the author's brother Howard died in the destruction of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center on September 11th, 2001. Prayer for the dead. The light snow started late last night and continued all night long while I slept and could hear it occasionally enter my sleep. Where I dreamed my brother was alive again and possessing the beauty of youth, aware that he would be leaving again shortly. And that is the lesson of the snow falling and of the seeds of death that are in everything that is born. We are here for a moment of a story that is longer than all of us, and few of us remember. The wind is blowing out of someplace we don't know, and each moment contains rhythms within rhythms. And if you discover some old piece of your own writing or an old photograph, you may not remember that it was you. And even if it was once you, it's not you now. Not this moment that the synapses fire and your hands move to cover your face in a gesture of grief and remembrance. Page 566, the bottom of the page. Blessed are the memories, holy and cherish the love they reveal. We pray, may our sorrows soften and diminish in strength. May the pains of past bereavements grow gentler with time. Let memory bring us nearer to the loved ones in our midst. Baruch atah Adonai mekor hachayim, blessed are you, Holy One, who gives and renews life. Page 567.
There are stars up above, so far away we only see their light. Long, long after the star itself is gone, And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest nights, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember, as we live our days. These are the ways we remember, יש כוכבים שאורם מגיע ארצה, רק כאשר הם עצמן עבדו בינם. יש אנשים שזיו זכרם מאיר, כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אליך מבהיקים בחשכת הליל, הם שמרים לאדם את הדרך, הם שמרים לאדם את הדרך,
Those of you who do not have a prayer book would not know what our page tells us, that those words too were the words of Chana Senesh. Friends, on pages 568 through 575, we find a sequence of Yizkor prayers for us to encounter and choose from among as we read them. And after a period of silence given over to memory and loss, we will emerge on page 577. Page 577. Words of Rabbi David Wolpe. What happens after death? I find it hard to believe that all we are simply vanishes. I don't think we go to a physical place. After all, the essence, the soul, is not physical. As the Israeli scholar Adin Steinsaltz once remarked, to ask, where the soul goes is a nonsense question. The soul is not physical. Where does a dream go once it has been dreamt? Where does love go when it dissipates? We cannot conceive of what life might be like if it is not material like this life. In this life, we are tied to the tangible. except our deepest experiences tend to be the things that are not really physical, like love, like memory. We cannot imagine what happens after death, but the poverty of our imagination does not prove that the world is not more creative than we know. It is lovely to think that the loss of this world is a ticket price to the inheritance of the next. Maybe we step through this world as if through a corridor. A beautiful comment by Bronson Alcott, friend of Emerson and father of Louisa May Alcott, ties together the themes of failing memory and the world to come. As he grew older, Emerson started to lose his memory. He tried to get around it. Once, forgetting the term umbrella, he called it the thing that strangers take away. But it troubled him. He was consoled by Alcott, who made reference to the Platonic legend that human beings know all about this world, but lose that knowledge the moment we are born. Likewise, he said, that as we get older, we start to lose knowledge of this world in the form of failing memory to prepare us for the next one. Each time we cannot remember something about this world, it is not a failing, but a letting go. Page 583, the bottom of that page.
Adonai li velo ira, ve'imruchi keviati. Adonai li velo ira. My soul I give to you, my body in your care. Hold me near, I shall not fear, safely in your hands. Hold me near, I shall not fear, safely in your hands. My soul I give to you, my body in your hands. Hold me near, I shall not fear, safely in your hands. Hold me near, I shall not fear, safely in your hands.
Page 589. A poem by my all-time favorite poet, Ted Kooser, a Midwestern poet, former poet laureate of the Library of Congress. And when I first discovered that one of his poems was in our prayer book, I was delighted. Father is its title. Today you would be 97 if you had lived, and we would all be miserable, you and your children, driving from clinic to clinic, an ancient, fearful hypochondriac and his fretful son and daughter, asking directions, trying to read the complicated, fading map of cures. But with your dignity intact, you have been gone for 20 years, and I am glad for all of us, although I miss you every day. the heartbeat under your necktie, the hand cupped on the back of my neck, Old Spice in the air, your voice delighted with stories. On this day each year you loved to relate that at the moment of your birth, your mother glanced out the window and saw lilacs in bloom. Well, today lilacs are blooming in side yards all over Iowa, still welcoming you. Page 590, top of the page. Rabbi Judah taught there are 10 strong things. Iron is strong, but fire melts it. Fire is strong, but water quenches it. Water is strong, but the clouds evaporate it. Clouds are strong, but wind drives them away. Wind is strong, but the human body bears it. Human beings are strong, but fear casts them down. Fear is strong, but wine allays it. Wine is strong, but sleep overcomes it. Sleep is strong, but death is stronger. And loving kindness survives death. Page 593, the 23rd Psalm. No other psalm, perhaps no other prayer, but the Kaddish itself is as inseparable from our experience of grief and mourning as the 23rd. One phrase, so simple and direct, yet emotionally profound, has made it so. Ki ata imadi, for you are with me. Or in the language of an earlier age, for thou art with me. To arrive at those words after passing through the valley of the shadow of death is to know, in the words of Rabbi Joshua Loth Liebman, that God contains and supports us as a mighty ocean contains and supports the infinitesimal drops of every wave. To arrive at those words is to feel at home in the cosmos, held and comforted, cared for and serene. The 23rd Psalm does not make promises that cannot be kept. The end of all evil, the eradication of suffering and pain, sunshine instead of shadows. It makes but one promise, only this: you are not alone.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino deshe yarbitzeini al memnuchot yenahaleini nafshi yeshover yancheni b'maglet tzedek yancheni b'maglet tzedek leman shemo gam ki elech beget salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi shiftecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzorai dishanta vashemen roshi kosi ribaya ach tov v'chesed yirfuni kol yemei chayai v'shavti bevet Adonai le'orech yamim. Adonai roi lo echsar, Adonai roi lo echsar.
Page 597. Our loved ones live on in our broken hearts, and at times that brings some measure of healing. Their acts of kindness and generosity are the inheritance they leave behind. We feel their absence, but the beauty of their lives abides among us. As it is said, the name of one who has died shall not disappear. Our loved ones' names and their memories will endure among us. And these are the names on our lips and in our hearts of members of this congregation who had died since last Rosh Hashanah. Eugene Bard, Pearl Diskin, Tina Kaplan, Dr. Frederick Lane, Erwin Lederman, Tanya Levin, Ann Pomper, Michelle Riley, Frida Ruth Weiner, Shirley Zweig. Their memories are with us. We turn to page 598. We rise for the memorial prayer.
El Maleh Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Hamseh Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei Hashchina Im Kroshim Utorim Kezohar Harakia Mazhirim Lenishmot Yakireinu Shehalchu Leolamam Baal Harachamim Harachamim Yastirem Beseder Kenafav Leolamim Bitzror hachayim et nishmatam Adonai hu nachalatam Ve'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkavam V'nomar Amen. Merciful God, God Most High, let there be perfect rest for the souls of our loved ones who have gone into eternity. May they find shelter in your presence among the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold them close to you forever. May their souls be bound up in the bond of life eternal. May they find a home in you, and may they rest in peace. Together we say, Amen.
Please be seated, friends. We turn to the bottom of page 605. Our thoughts turn to loved ones whom death has taken from us in recent days, and those who died at this season in years past. Our hearts open as well to the wider circles of loss in our community and wherever grief touches the human family. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be a blessing in this new year and always. Today we call to mind Erwin Lederman, beloved member of our community who died in recent weeks. And we mark the Yahrzeit, the anniversary of death of these loved ones. Jack Bello, Avraham Joel Davidovich, Isaac Eisenstein, Jason Elias, Betty Jane Finkelstein, Louis Freemer, William Fuchs, Israel Furman, Joseph Gorey, A. Allen Grossman, Isidore Herman, Shirley Posner, Haskell Sachs, George V. Wing, and Helene Wolfson. The words of Kaddish are found on page 606. We invite anyone in mourning, anyone observing a Yahrzeit, anyone wishing to stand for Kaddish to do so. Yitgadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah B'alamad Ivrach Hirutei V'yamlich Machutei B'chayechon Uv'yomechon Uv'chayei Dechol Beit Yisrael Ba'agala U'bizman Kariv V'imru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevarach Le'olam U'lalmei Almaya Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh V'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei d'kudsha b'richu la'ela ul'ela mikol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata da'amiran ba'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mromav hu ya'asei shalom. Aleinu va'al kol Yisrael va'al kol Yoshvei Tevel v'imru. Amen. Please be seated, friends. At the bottom of page 607, words of hope drawn from Psalm 126.
Those who sow in tears, shall reap in joy, shall reap in joy. Those who sow in tears, shall reap in joy. Hazorim b'dima berina yiksoru. Hazorim b'dima berina yiksoru. Those who sow in tears, shall reap in joy, shall reap in joy. Those who sow in tears, shall reap in joy. Those who sow in tears, shall reap in joy, shall reap in joy. Those who sow in tears, shall reap in joy.
Applause. That's applause. Friends, in just a moment, we will move right into our Ne'ilah service, but I have a public service announcement concerning what happens after Ne'ilah. After we've made Havdalah at the very end of our service and said a motzi over a challah, everyone is cordially invited to dash through the raindrops to our wonderful break fast, which is waiting, courtesy of our sisterhood. But the announcement is that for those of you who may desire or need gluten-free food, there is a special section with nothing but gluten-free foods for you to break your fast. Thank you, sisterhood. We continue on page 613. Once again, a poem by Marge Piercy, titled appropriately, Ne'ilah. The hinge of the year, the great gates opening and then slowly closing on us. I always imagine those gates hanging over the ocean, fiery over the stone-gray waters of evening. We cast what we must change about ourselves onto the waters flowing to the sea. The sins, errors, bad habits, whatever you call them, dissolve. When I was little, I cried out, I want. Older, I feel less important. A worker bee in the hive of history, miles of hard labor to make my sweetness. The gates are closing, the light is failing. I kneel before what I love, imploring that it may live. So much breaks, wears down, fails in us. We must forgive our failed promises, their broken glass in our hands. I should have pointed out that that was not in the book, but it was one that I brought with me. I apologize. Page 617. A meditation for those who were unable to fast this day. I was not able to fast on this holy day, and this I regret, but I am thankful for all that I am able to do, and for everything that brings me to this moment. I am grateful to parents and grandparents, teachers and friends who've taught me and encouraged me to live a Jewish life. I am grateful to the Jews of other times and places who shaped Yom Kippur into a spiritual peak that calls out, "You can climb higher than you think." I'm grateful for the rich spiritual tapestry of this day, the multifaceted wisdom of Machzor and Torah, a symphony of melodies, the radiance of our sanctuary draped in white, the piercing cry of shofar. I'm grateful for traditions that awaken within me the beauty and majesty of the sublime and guide me on the arduous path of teshuvah. I am grateful for teshuvah, which makes the days of awe a turning point in my life, a time of return, a time of change, a season of response. I'm grateful for my bond with the house of Israel, the great family of Jews throughout the world, those who stand with me this day and those who do not, the companions who surround me here and those whose presence I feel when I hear the sound of Torah and the vibrant notes of teruah, shivarim, tekiyah. I was not able to fast on this holy day, but my gratitude is deep beyond words. Page 620, the Reader's Kaddish.
Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Balmad yivrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh b'chayechonu v'yomechon u'b'chayedecho beit Yisrael bagala ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעלמי עלמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח יתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה בריחו לילה ולילה מכל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דמירן בעלמה ויאמרו Amen.
Page 622, if you can comfortably rise, we do so for tefillah.
Adonai sifatai tifta ufi agi tehilatecha. Adonai, open my lips that my mouth may declare your praise.
We turn the page.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avoteinu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot Ve'imahot, U'mevi Goel Lifnei V'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava. זוכרנו לחיים, מלך חפץ בחיים, וחותמנו בספר החיים, למען אלוהים חיים. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה.
Blessed are you in our lives, Adonai, shield of Abraham, sustainer of Sarah.
We turn the page.
אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומידו מלך, מלך נביא ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה. מי כמוך אל הרחמים, זוכר יצוריו לחיים ברחמים, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל.
Wellspring of blessing, power eternal, you are the one who gives and renews all life.
You may be seated. Page 629, the middle of that page. Open gate. The arc of evening slowly turning, the sun's blue shadows washed away, the gate still open as 3 stars wait to pierce the sky. In the corridor where night bears its maze, you begin to begin again. Page 633, the middle of that page. Late October, and the sky is that clear blue scrim we only see when the leaves go presto changeo, garnet and gold, and asters and chrysanthemums, the last flowers, take their bow on center stage. The birds are packing it up, preparing their exit, and the rest of the garden collapses in ruin. Fallen branches, crumpled programs, dried leaves. The house light turns everything golden. And even though we know what's coming, the next act, we start to believe we can stay here forever in the amber spotlight. That night's black velvet curtain will never fall. Page 637, the top of that page. How a place becomes holy. Sometimes a man will start crying in the middle of the street without knowing why or for whom. It is as though someone else is standing there holding his briefcase, wearing his coat. And from beneath the rust of years come to his tongue the words of his childhood, I'm sorry, and God, and do not be far from me. And just as suddenly the tears are gone, and the man walks back into his life, and the place where he cried becomes holy. Page 639, the bottom of that page. Let's read together. God of goodness, mercy, and hope, we are grateful for your gifts of love and compassion. Seal us today for a life of integrity, lived in constant. God of peace, grant us peace, your most precious gift. You have given us freedom to choose between good and evil, life and death. May we choose life and good. May our children inherit from us the blessing of peace. May we and the whole family of Israel be remembered and sealed in the book of life. Blessed is forgiveness, and blessed are goodness, mercy, and love. Blessed is the nearness of the divine presence, and blessed is the hope for peace. Baruch atah Adonai oseh hashalom. You are the Blessed One, the Eternal One, source of peace. We continue at the bottom of page 643. Day of Atonement. Out of nothing I became a being, and from a being I shall be nothing. But until then I rejoice, a mote in your world, a spark in your seeing. Page 646. Moses prayed to God, as you've been faithful to this people ever since Egypt, please forgive their failings now, in keeping with your boundless love. Adonai, Adonai, God compassionate, gracious, endlessly patient, loving, and true, showing mercy to the 1,000th generations, forgiving evil, defiance, and wrongdoing, granting pardon.
Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha. Vayomer Adonai, salachti kidvarecha.
We turn to the top of page 661. Our sages teach, as soon as the fast of Yom Kippur concludes, pound the first nail into the sukkah. To everything there is a season, a time for prayer and looking inward, a time to go outside and build. So it is written, one mitzvah inspires another. May this long day of fasting and self-denial inspire acts of creativity, generosity, and joy. May we go from strength to strength. As this day has been a refuge for the spirit, may we shelter one another in the sukkah. As we have shared worship and teshuvah, may we share hospitality and friendship in the days to come. Mindful that our days are fleeting, we prepare to taste the sweet fruits of this season, to cherish life, to celebrate the light. Page 662. We rise together. We join together. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, welcome our prayer with love, accept and embrace it. Avinu Malkeinu, act for the sake of your boundless compassion. Avinu Malkeinu, act toward us as befits your name. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of sustenance and livelihood. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of worthiness and merit. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of forgiveness and pardon. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of lives well lived. Avinu Malkeinu, seal us in the book of redemption and renewal. Avinu Malkeinu, let our hands overflow with your blessings. Avinu Malkeinu, let the gates of heaven be open to our prayers. Avinu Malkeinu, renew us for a year of goodness. Avinu Malkeinu, we have no sovereign but you. Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, and where deeds are wanting, save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki en banu masim. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed. Aseh imanu, tzedakah v'chesed, v'hoshienu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chonenu Vanenu, Ki en banu masim.
Please be seated. In just a few moments, friends, we will move to the ark for a final time. We'll hear the final blast of the shofar and conclude our worship for Yom Kippur. I don't want to miss the opportunity to let you know, in case you've been wondering throughout the afternoon, who are these wonderful people joining us on the bema. Ann Ryder, the president of our congregation, and Rob Letterman, who is a member of our board of directors, as well as the chair of our cemetery committee. And we appreciate your presence this afternoon. I found something that I felt that I had to share with you before we hear the shofar for the last time. Some of you may have read this essay in the New York Times in recent days. It was written by Pinchas Goldschmidt, who was the chief rabbi of Moscow from 93 to 2022. He remains the president of the Conference of European Rabbis. Here's part of what he wrote. After Russia's invasion of Ukraine, everything changed. The government began to shift to semi-totalitarianism. The surviving independent media was shut down. Protesters were arrested. Soon I received reports of religious community leaders, priests, imams, rabbis, being pressured to express their support for the military. One day, a government source informed the synagogue that we would be expected to support the war or else. It was then that my wife and I decided to leave the country. This will be our first Yom Kippur in true exile from the place we called our home for 3 decades. He writes, "The hardest task of religious leadership is to take moral stances in difficult times, no matter the cost. And this is perhaps what the shofar, the ram's horn the Jews blow on the high holy days, represents. According to the Bible, the shofar is the sound of freedom. It was historically blown at the beginning of the Jubilee year, the year that freed all slaves and returned all sold ancestral property. The sound of the shofar blow is meant to remind us of both freedom and equality. When we blow that shofar this year, let us remember how a peaceful world must rely on the fundamentals of liberty and life, not only for individuals, but also among nations. For so long, we had assumed these qualities were a given in Western society until they no longer were. When we blow that shofar this year, let us remember that it is the role of faith to counter evil, to fight for the basic human rights of liberty and life. And sometimes the costs of blowing that shofar are high. Sometimes one is dragged off by the secret police, and sometimes one finds oneself in exile. This high holy days, let the cries of that ancient horn be heard. And let us in our hearts dedicate the sounds of these final blows not only to Rabbi Goldschmidt, but to those in Ukraine who still suffer. Friends, we continue on page 670. We invite forward to open our ark Ann Ryder and Bill Ryder. Page 670, we rise one last time. We stand as one before the gates of a new year, renewed by this day of atonement, made stronger by all who are with us and by those whose presence we feel within. As the long day fades into dusk, we join our voices in words of hope and dedication. Pitchu lanu sha'arei tzedek, navovam nodeya. Open for us the gates of righteousness, that we may enter and praise the eternal source of life. Let's read together. Open for us the gates of sacred community, that we may enter and feel its healing power. Open for us the gates of truth and integrity, that we may enter. Open for us the gates of repentance and return. Open for us the gates of repentance and return, that we may enter and offer our best. Open for us the gates of forgiveness, that we may enter and offer our humanity. Open for us the gates of kindness and compassion, that we may enter and offer our love. Page 672.
Tekiah, Shavarim, Teruah, Tekiah Gedolah. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Listen, Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Adonai hu ha-Elohim, 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 Adonai hu ha-Elohim. Adonai is God, 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 Adonai is God.
Shana Haba'ah Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. Friends, you may be seated. We continue with Haggadah. Page 674.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Adonai, our God and sovereign source of blessings, you create the fruit of the vine.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei minei v'samim.
Adonai, our God and sovereign source of blessings, you create spices of every kind.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei meorei hayim.
Adonai, our God and sovereign source of blessings, you create the light of fire.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamabdil ben kodesh lechol, ben or lechoshen, ben Yisrael lamim, beyom hashvi'i l'sheshek yemei ha'maseh. Baruch atah Adonai, hamabdil ben kodesh lechol.
Adonai, source of blessings, you distinguish the holy from the everyday.
Hamavdil ben kodesh lechol, hatodnenu yimchol, zareinu shlomenu yarbe kachol,
Join me, please, with us.
Baruch Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Praise you, God, sovereign of existence, who brings forth bread from the earth. Amen. Shana Tova.